Hello everybody. In this video, I'm going to provide an overview based on a live Q&A with the State Department where Charlie Oppenheim, the chief of the Visa Control Unit, provided predictions for the end of fiscal year 2021, also predictions for fiscal year 2022, and a lot of good things that you need to know as you're going through the immigration process, whether you're applying for an immigrant visa based on family petition or employment. So we're going to dive in, break it down for you step by step. So what are you waiting for? I will see you on the other side. Hello everybody, and welcome back to our immigration channel. This is a place where you get the most up-to-date immigration news, immigration updates, and everything else that you need to make your immigration journey less stressful. My name is Jacob Sapochnick and I'm an immigration attorney located in San Diego, California, and we are very familiar with all issues connected with the State Department, visa processing. We have clients all over the world. We are super excited to bring you this update. In this video, we're going to go through a summary of the Q&A session that Charlie Oppenheim has every month, the chief of the Visa Control Unit, that determines which priority days are going to be current every month, and if the visa bulletin will retrogress, which happened in previous years. So let's jump in right into the questions. Are you concerned with the anticipated large amount of unused fiscal year 2021 employment-based numbers? And this is a very common question that was raised in this live stream and also is all over the place. People are worried, like, what's going to happen with these unused visas? And this is what the State Department had to say about it. The State Department said that they're extremely concerned with the amount of unused visas under the employment-based category for fiscal year 2021. That's why they made China and India current in quite a few categories back in April, just to be able to help with the amount of unused visas that were already predicted back in April. And of course, the aggressive movement since April in final action dates numbers is also geared towards trying to address this problem of unused visas. And as you know, both the State Department and USCIS are going to do whatever they can with the amount left right now until the end of the year to maximize the number of immigrant visas before the end of the fiscal year. In fact, based on a recent discussion between USCIS and the State Department, USCIS is going to approve more adjustment of status cases by the end of this year than they've ever done before since fiscal year 2005, actually. In fact, the State Department concluded saying that their embassies and consulates only started working normally in April of 2021. Before that, it was almost zero movement. So it just shows you that with these issues and USCIS trying to catch up, they're doing the best to try to avoid the loss of so many visas. And of course, there's litigation right now on the other side to try to force them to do their job. Another common question that was presented is the following. When I look at the chart listing the final action dates, how do I know if my case is eligible to be scheduled for an interview at the overseas post responsible for processing my case? Very, very common question that we get asked all the time, and people are posting about it on our comments, is people are confused as to when they know that they're ready to be scheduled for an interview. People are confused as to when they know that they're ready to be scheduled for an interview. And this is what the State Department has to say about it. The first thing is that it's super important to finish all your obligations to the National Visa Center. Upload all your documents, make sure that they don't need anything, so your case can be officially classified as documentary qualified. It's important for this to be done on time because cases are being reported to the visa office as completed on the first of each month. And so, if you're documentary qualified and your priority date is earlier than indicated on the visa bulletin, then your case is now ready to be scheduled for an interview. Now remember, as I mentioned in previous videos, even if that's the case, and National Visa Center is done with your case, and you're essentially sitting there in line waiting to be processed for an interview, now what needs to be happen is that the U.S. Embassy on the other side needs to send the National Visa Center a notice letting them know that they have slots open for an interview. They will do that about 30 days before they're ready to interview people, and so the National Visa Center has enough time to take your case and send it to the respective posts. The problem is that currently embassies are not releasing slots enough. Not enough slots are available for the National Visa Center to be sending your case to that embassy. So while you're documentally qualified, while your priority date is current, you still have to wait for that embassy to open the required slots for your case to be sent over there to be scheduled for an interview. And that's what they're working on right now to make sure that it's going to happen correctly. Now let's see what Charlie has to say about the following question. Why hasn't the EB2 final action date been advancing each month?
Actually, the India EB2 date has been advancing at a rapid pace through July, have most of the employment categories. It's important to remember that the movement of the various dates is subject to the amount of numbers available for use each month, and the demand is often in weekly groupings. So sometimes we may have a targeted amount of numbers we would like to make use of, but the weekly grouping prevents us from advancing the date too fast. There's typically a high concentration of applicant demand in the India weekly groupings, as I said, which can limit the movement, especially later in the fiscal year as we start to approach the annual limits. And the same principle is, applied to the final date action dates, all of the final action dates.
Okay, thank you.
Sometimes there's a high concentration of applicant demand in countries like India, which can cause a limited movement, especially later in the year. And they're definitely trying to address this issue as they're working on ways to deal with anything to do with the annual limits on immigrant visas. Here's another very important question. If we were to assume that the fiscal year 2022 employment-based annual limit will be at least as high as the fiscal year 2021, will there also be a significant amount of unused numbers as there will be this year? It's a really good question, and it's important to hear it from the State Department and to see what Charlie has to say about this, and specifically a prediction for us for fiscal year 2022.
That is a very hard question to answer at this point. One of the primary reasons for there being such a large amount of unused fiscal 2021 numbers is the continued impact of the COVID-19 issues, which have impacted processing. If that impact were to continue to subside during fiscal 2022, it can be expected that the employment number use totals will increase dramatically and reduce any potential amount of unused numbers. But it's also always important to remember that just because there are more numbers available for use doesn't automatically guarantee that we'll be able to have a corresponding increase in number use because a lot of things such as staffing to handle such workload have to be considered. Just because we get more numbers doesn't mean that there are additional staffing and resources to process such cases.
As you can see, to prevent that from happening in 2022, there may be some need to do some corrective actions like retrogression, where essentially dates are moving backwards to allow more movement and adjustments, and probably retrogression will happen in 2022 based on Charlie's current predictions. This is an important question that a lot of people are asking, and people who are concerned about retrogression in fiscal year 2022. Why can't you advance the filing date for F2B category? Family-based categories for people in the US should be given equal treatment as the employment-based categories. So what the State Department had to say about this is very interesting. They're saying that they've already advanced most of the family preference categories to the point where the amount of documentally qualified applicant exceeds the annual limit in every single family-based category. For example, if in the F2A category, where the limit is 87,000 for the fiscal year 2021, there are currently 130,000 documentally qualified applicants, which exceeds the actual limit of 87,000. The same problem exists in other family categories this year. And so the prediction is, just like Charlie Oppenheim said, that if this continues like this, such discrepancy in numbers, they will have to retrogress most family categories by 2 to 4 months or even more to be able to catch up with the demand. So the conclusion is that we're going to be faced with retrogression for family-based numbers over a period of time to be able to catch up. So prepare yourself for some retrogression in fiscal year 2022. Once again, hopefully this information was helpful. We try to do our best to provide you a summary of all these live streams. We also have a full blog report with more questions linked in the description of this video, so make sure you go through that and read that as well. Once again, if you're here for the first time, do not forget to subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos, and also give us a big like so YouTube will be able to show this video to more people just like you. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in our next video.